Hey guys, it's Derica with Derica's Designs, and today we're going to make this cute Pilgrim turkey attachment. This is a no-sew attachment, so grab your glue guns and let's get started. Hey guys, we're back and we are ready to make this adorable little Pilgrim turkey. I don't know what else to call him. He's super cute though, and it's a lot of fun to make. So, we have lots of pieces though, right? We have the neck area, the hat, the face, the brim of the hat, the cheeks, and the beak. So it's a lot of pieces that we need to cover. So we're going to use the same concept that we always do with our no-sew attachments. We cut our felt, and on the pattern, I believe it said when you're cutting your foam board, you cut it the size of the pattern. When you're cutting your felt, you make sure you cut it about 1/2 inch to 1 inch larger, okay? But for actually right now, what I want to do is everything except for this neck area, all the other, and the brim, of course, all the other pieces. Oh, and the brown. Okay, wait, I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember how I did this. Yes, everything else. So this does not have quilt batting. This does not have quilt batting, but these 4 pieces all have quilt batting, which just gives it a slight plushiness. You do absolutely 100% do not have to do this. You can just glue the fabric directly to the foam board. This is totally optional, but since we have a few of them, I'm going to go ahead. Now, as you can see, all I'm doing is putting glue on there, and that's literally just to keep things from sliding around. You don't want the quilt batting to be moving around on you. So this is the easiest way for me. There's no point cutting out each piece of quilt batting and then trying to glue it. Just put your pieces on there and then cut around them. They don't have to be perfect because you are going to fold over felt. So just get them to where there's not a bunch of excess hanging off. Look at that. Very simple. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong. If you want to glue directly to the foam board, if you don't want to go through this step to do the quilt batting, it's really not going to change the look of your item. It will just change the feel of it. It won't be quite as plush. Totally up to you. I like the way it looks. Now, with a lot of no-sews, I've stopped stuffing them with polyfill because the polyfill just seems a little too much. But this is polyfill quilt batting. It's just a very thin layer. You can actually add another layer on here if you want it a little bit more plush. Like you just glue right on top of that and you have a little bit more. If that's the look you're going for on certain pieces. Certain parts of your project may need more puffiness and some parts may not need any at all. So I like to just wait till my project is done and then just kind of see if I want to make any changes to it. Because hopefully you're making more than one, right? So I'm literally just going to start. I'm going to take each piece as we go along and put the felt onto it. If you've made the no-sews before, you know this is the basis. This is how we do every single piece. This one is super easy right here because it's all straight lines. So this is the one I'm going to start out with. Some of the ones with the curves, you got to be a little more mindful and cut a few slits in it. And you really have to, to get the look you're going for, you want to take a little extra time on the ones with the curves. Ouch, I did not leave myself a lot of felt here. So when you're cutting your fabric out, even on the patterns where I have given you the fabric part to cut out, if ever you feel like it's just not enough, then make it a little bit bigger. Just cut 1/4 inch outside the line. All you're going to do is fold it over this piece of board. It does not matter how big it is, but it does matter how small it is, because like I said, I cut this one to where it barely made it around. So especially if your hands, if you have arthritis, if you're struggling with carpal tunnel and you can't tug on it very well, you know, you may want to cut the fabric a little bit bigger than what the pattern shows. And if the pattern doesn't have the fabric on it and it just tells you to cut the fabric larger, then cut it, give yourself like an inch all the way around. Like literally, as you're cutting the fabric out, make it an inch bigger than the pattern. Just go ahead and make that, you know, decision on your own, because I can take a little piece of felt and really tug on it and make it work fine, but other people, that little tiny bit like that might not, it might just be too small. It might be too difficult for them to grab on and fold over. And now anywhere there's a turn like this too, like a really, you're gonna wanna put a slit in there. Not all the way to the foam board, but those pieces of fabric need to be pulled in two different directions. So you've got to put a slit in there, otherwise it will never cover the way you want it to. So we're putting a line of glue. Remember, don't put too much glue on. Always use a detail tip glue gun. Don't use your full-size glue guns for this, guys. You will burn your fingers every time. You can get a Surebonder detail tip glue gun at Walmart for under $10, and it is highly worth the investment to do these attachments. Now, I would not use it for a wreath. I would not use it to put stems in a grapevine. I would not use it as my everyday glue gun. But as an attachment glue gun, it is basically necessary. You definitely do not want to be using a full size, and my goodness, please don't use a Ryobi anything. They just get too hot, and your fingers are all up in this. Your fingers are all up in these projects. I'm putting hot glue all over this, and it's getting on my fingers, and do not use the Ryobi if you're making these attachments. So I just glued this. This is the brim of the hat. I just glued one side directly onto the felt. And now I'm just going to trim it off. Because this is going to be sticking out front like this, I found a better way than the folding over technique. So we're basically just trim it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but because we are going to put some extra felt around it, but just try to get it as close as you can to the actual piece of foam board. And we're going to go in here. We're going to glue that one on, do the exact same thing. We're just going to take and cut the excess felt off of it. You kind of have to get into this little inset here. This is the part that's going to attach to the hat. So, and then just go around it. Now on this next part, if you have trim, you can use trim, but I highly recommend you use the black felt first and then add the trim to it. Because if your trim has the slightest little hole or little tiny decorative see-through area, this white is going to show through. It's not going to be pretty. So what I do is I take a strip of black, just a scrap. It doesn't matter how long it is, just long enough to go around this. See, that one's just even a little bit longer. So, this just works really well to hide. And what I'm doing is I'm gluing this, but I'm also smearing out the glue with the nozzle of my glue gun. And then I'm going to put that on there. And yes, it's too big. We're going to have to trim it. But we didn't want it to be too small and then try to line it up. It's always better to cut too big, as you can always trim off. And felt, guys, is not expensive. So do not be afraid to waste it. I'm talking to all of you who save your ribbon tails from 1924. Just don't. You can cut this off and throw it away. It's okay. Now, I do save pieces of felt if they're large enough. I mean, I'm not crazy. But a little trim of felt, a little piece, no, I'm not going to save it. So we glue it all the way around like that. That way it looks like this piece, this brim, is completely covered in felt. And then if you wanted to put a decorative trim on top of it, there's no chance that that ugly white foam board is going to show through. And, no one will see it. So now I'm just taking it. These scissors are not the best. And I'm just cutting directly along the edge and cutting it. Cutting all that little bit of excess off. Just hold your scissors right and move them right along the side of, and it'll just cut them right off. Well, if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, I'm sorry. Sorry, just sorry. I can't help you. All right, so then you see how you have a nice, it's like this, and it's like it's all one piece, right? And this definitely needs to be fixed up. I need better scissors in here. But that way, if you wanted to put a decorative trim on there now, you can. And the black is not going to show through, or the white is not going to show through the black at all. So we're going to use our little hat. We're going to go ahead and glue this because it's going to need time to cool off. So you take this with the opening you have, put it on your hat, and then slide it down until it's going to get kind of stuck, but slide it down until it's like, like a pilgrim hat. If you look at it, it looks like a little pilgrim hat. Then what I do is I just tilt it back, lightly put a nice bead of glue in there, then I tilt it forward again. And I'm going to want to hold this. You don't want your brim to waver, up and down. You want it to kind of just stay straight up and down. That one's a little loose over there. I noticed that earlier. This one I made, it's just a little bit loose. It's okay. It's not going anywhere. I mean, but it is a little loose. I didn't hold it long enough. So I'm lined up right to the edge of that piece of foam board, and I'm just holding this on. So it's pretty good where it's at. So I'm going to I want that to cool completely before I mess with it though. Okay. So we're going to take the neck area. These are just little collars. You'll see that you want it to be lined up here with the top. So when you cut yours out, you'll know if you try to put it on this way, it's not going to fit. It's going to want to go like that. So you need to flip it over. You're going to glue these on just like this. Leave a little bit of a gap in here because we have these little gemstone buttons over here that we want to put in this gap. So you want to leave a little gap in there. Think about how a pilgrim's collar is. So I'm going to lift this one. I'm going to throw some glue. Lift this one. Throw some glue. That's just holding it in place for us. And now we can actually add glue to the back of this. Remember, these hangs over the edge a little bit, so don't get glue back there. It doesn't look pretty. Like that. There we go. So that's just a little pilgrim's collar. Very easy. We can go ahead and add the gemstones, actually. Uh-oh, we're losing things over here. These are just brown gemstones if you go to Hobby Lobby. Uh-oh. And every time, I always start out with everything, and then it's like the goblins come and take them away. I don't know. And then 2 weeks later, I will come in here and I will find the gemstone that I was looking for. I don't know where it is. So we're just going to have to go with 2 right now because I've only got 2 gemstones. Nope, here it is. Found it. Jeez. Okay. So these are just little buttons. You don't have to, you can use like old wooden buttons. They probably look really cute. So you don't have to use these gemstones. I just get these in the fall section at Hobby Lobby. They come in a bag and with lots of different colors, and I just kind of liked the colors. I liked the way it, they're brown. So, but you could just use regular wooden buttons or something a little more rustic looking, for sure. You don't have to use gemstones, that's for sure. So, I mean, it's a Pilgrim, so obviously they didn't have gemstones. Wooden button probably would have been a little more appropriate. Okay, so now the hat is okay now. So we're going to put, it's just brown felt, just a little, I don't know what this is, hat belt. Jeez, one of these days. Let's put a line of glue and then just, it's hard to see in these lights. Just make sure it's, you know, somewhat straight. And then a little glue on the back, little wings here, fold them over. So it stays in place like that. And then this was, I had some brown glittered foam sheet. That's all this is. It's just foam. You can use just regular felt if you want to. In a different, you can do gold. You can do whatever color you want. You could just do black. You know. But I just happen to have this gold foam sheet that's glittered, and I'm just going to use it. I thought it looked nice on there. It just kind of, it's not bright, but it, you know, the glitter on it makes it look, you know, a little fancier. Okay, we have our hat. We have our little Pilgrim. Now this is the tie, the picot, really not sure of the pronunciation. This is that very basic ribbon. If y'all had little hair bows for your daughters or for yourself maybe, it's just, it's very much like the little granny panty trim, not wired or anything. It's just, you can get this pretty much anywhere. I did this as like a little bolo tie for him. I'm not going to attach it yet because I figured back in the day, you know, that's the little bolo tie was very popular with the Pilgrims. So, all right, so we'll work on our face now. Oh, wait, excuse me. Let's make our eyes really quick. This is the snood, which we'll use later. And we'll just do our eyes. Oh, no, okay. Jeez. Now, the eyes are made at an angle. They're not perfectly straight on the bottom, as you can see. They need to go inward. So the further part goes to the inside. So when you put the black on, make sure you're going to the inside like that. They're kind of going downhill inside. And that's just because this is also going downhill inside. So they're made to fit in that spot. And then the little white dot. This might be a little big. I might need to trim those up a little, but we're going to go with it. You just want to make sure you put the dots roughly in the same general area on each of these, like right in that far upper right corner. And then get your... We had lots of resin eyes that we picked out for this project, but I just felt like, because he's all felt, I don't know, his eyes are so big, it was really kind of easy to make them out of felt so that anybody can do this. You don't have to have the resin, you don't have to do all of that. So that's what the eyes are going to look like. So those right there. Now, the reason we have the little cheek area, just for dimension, you could have just done this. But to me, that could just be a duck. It could be any kind of animal. For some reason, putting the little cheek piece on gave him a little more dimension. But I did, and if you have it, you don't have to, but I like to use, I have this old palette here of blush, and I just like to kind of give some dimension to these cheeks up here. Right in this area. You don't have to do this, but I like to. A lot of projects I do, I will use a little blush on the cheek. you know, we're not painting anything here, so we can't really have that depth and dimension like you would get from a painted item. But sometimes the blush, just a little bit of color on the cheeks, especially on like the little elves and things, is just really cute. Okay, so now we're going to put some glue on there. And I'm just centering it basically right in the center of the main head. We'll take our little beak. They do, at Hobby Lobby, they do have a yellow that is called felt sheet, excuse me. If you go in the felt sheet section, they have one called Goldenrod. It's not a bright lemon yellow like this. It's more of a, it's just a muted down yellow. It actually would look much better. My store was out of it. Like they were literally out of Goldenrod. They had all the other colors, but not that one. So I just had to stick with the bright. So I kind of make sure my little points line up right here. That's basically the only thing that really is going to make a difference. I don't know. I can't get all this in there. There. So just like that. And like I said, you could just barely see the blush coming through right here above the beak and the cheeks. It's really not a big, huge difference, but I notice it. So our eyes are going to go kind of right here. See how that's why they're cut at a diagonal, because they're going to fit right in there. But I like to take, first of all, I make sure they're centered, and then I just like to tuck it up under. Just barely. You're just barely tucking it up under there. So, and then you kind of can play with them and make sure one's not tall. Oops, one's not taller than the other. It's not agreeing with me. Sometimes you just have to put it in front of you, and I use these like a little, they just kind of grab a hold of the felt and force it up under there. There we go. That looks better right there. So then, without disturbing it, I try to put some glue back here. Oh shoot, it pulled right out again. So we're gonna grab it, we're gonna pull it, push it back in there one more time. While the glue is still warm, you can still move your eye around and get it exactly where you want it. So that one's in there good. This one, I'm probably gonna have the same problem. So we're just gonna put some glue back here. We're going to set it where I want it, and then we're going to use the little scissors just to tuck it up under in there and make sure that they're even. Now that one needs to go further. There we go. So like I said, while the glue is still a little warm, it's still pliable, just you can go ahead. And then I just go back and add a little bit of glue to the sides just to make sure everything is glued down well. That's what's great about this detailed tip. It's got this extra long, skinny little nozzle. You can get into all these little places that you would not even be able to try with the regular glue gun. Okay, so now we need our snood. Same thing. I put it kind of between the eyes, like that. Glue. Zoomy zoom. Between the eyes. I don't want it covering the nose because I do want to put the little lines for this. You can't see it, it's off camera, sorry. I need to put the little lines for the nostrils right here. So I don't want it going straight down. I want it kind of off to the side right there. And I take my little scissors and I push this so that, again, I'm tucking it up under the same place where I tucked the eyes right there. And then I put some glue right there. I'm going to put just a couple lines, not a lot, because you don't want it going through the fabric. A couple lines so that this red part is glued to the yellow part. And that's it. You don't want to add any more glue or anything to that. It's just going to hang there, just like that. Okay. Now, we can assemble our neck area here. Really? I mean, just kind of put it where you want it. There's no specific place that it needs to go. You don't want it too tall, and you don't, or too low, or too high for that matter. So I've glued about 1.5 inches of this section up here, and then I'm just going to put this on there like that. I just eyeball it, make sure it looks straight and even, and it does. And then I'm going to throw some clamps on, because the clamps just help my hands and keep me from having to hold it for so long. Now I can put this on, because I know exactly where the head is going to be. Tiny bit of glue back there on the knot. And this is just a regular bow, guys, just like what you tie your tennis shoes with. You don't have to get fancy with it. Think about it. In the day, they just tie to tie. Don't need to get too fancy. You can do a bow tie if you want to as well. If you want just a little black bow tie, like a satin or something, that's fine too. But when I was looking at Pilgrims and stuff, they always had these just thin little ties, like a little bolo kind of tie. Okay, so I want to put this picot along this. Even though it's black, you're not going to see it. It's still a decorative touch. You know what I mean? So if that makes sense. It's satin. It's going to stand out more than just the felt that we have on it right now. Of course, you can do any kind of trim you want, but it just glue strings, holy moly. It just gives a little extra finishing touch that the brim of this hat is in satin and not just in felt. Okay, so let me cut those off. I mean, I don't know if you can really see it, but it has that, it's just satin. It just makes it stand out a little bit more. All right, so now that we have our head glued to our neck, we're going to glue our hat on. Now, when I was doing this, I made these eyes so big. I had the hat way up here where the eyes weren't touched, and I just didn't like the look of it. So I like the hat pushed down just a little bit where it's actually sitting on top of part of the eye. To me, it just looked better. See, like, if you put it way up here, that's a lot of forehead, you know. But if you bring it down and just touch the very tip of those eyes, I like the way that looked better. So I'm going to put glue in a line directly over the top part of those eyes. You can do it however you choose to. If you feel like this, you don't like this, you don't want the hat touching the eyes, then don't do it. I have to look at this straight on to make sure I put it even. You want it to be even on each side, the same overhang on each side, like that. And then I need to look at it straight forward to make sure it's straight, right? I can't do it sitting down here. So then I'm going to take my clips that are done down here, and I'm going to put them up there. And honestly, it looks pretty good. But see how they're touching the tops of the eyes like that? I just liked it. I don't know. No explanation, just did. So now we're going to get out our black paint pen, which is just so much easier than trying to cut these itty bitty tiny intricate little pieces of felt out. And we're just going to do like literally just nostrils, guys. Don't have to get real, there's a piece. Felt and these paint pens don't go that great together. You just have to be kind of rough with them. And then I like to, in the corner of the eye, where the eye meets the, basically the top of the cheek, I like to put some lashes in there, pretty long ones. And I don't know if you can kind of see them, where I drew them in there. Just for an added look. It's definitely not going to make a difference if you decide not to do this. But you can see kind of in those corners, see where I put the little lashes. It almost looks like, it almost more looks like laugh lines, maybe. Something like that. But that's it on that. And basically, unclip those. We are done. That is our cute little Pilgrim turkey. He's in a wreath. This guy is going to stand out because no matter what you put behind him, if you go through all of the fall and Thanksgiving style colors with the browns and the coppers and the golds. And you put him in the center of that. His bright white eyes, his bright white collar, and this yellowish colored beak are just going to stand out. It's going to, when people look at your wreath, their eyes are going to be drawn to all of this. And I think that's, when you're making wreath attachments, that's a big thing to remember, is you don't want all of your colors to mesh in with all the other colors. Your attachment needs to stand out in some way. So using white, yellows, just bright colors is a great, great way to get that done. So I hope you enjoy him, and I hope you make him, and I cannot wait to see what you do with him. Thanks, guys. You have a great day.